Okay, now let's look a little closer at the arrangement view and the session view separately. So we're just looking at the big picture here, right? We're going to dive in deeper in a minute. So I just want to kind of give us a big overview of what we're seeing here. So in the arrangement view, we have different kinds of tracks. Okay, so if we look over here, here's our track label, and then kind of a little bit of a mixer, and then some routing, some inputs and outputs. Now this particular track that I just clicked on is a MIDI track. So we see MIDI info here, and each of these little blocks is called a clip. That's just like Ableton's term for everything. Whether it's audio or MIDI, it's called a clip. It's a block of stuff, content. So this is a MIDI clip. This is an audio clip. Okay. So I can only put MIDI clips on MIDI tracks and audio clips on audio tracks. If I move an audio track or an audio clip to a MIDI track, it's going to try to convert it, and vice versa. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. So I have MIDI track here, MIDI track here, MIDI track here, audio track here. I know it's an audio track because there's audio clips on it. Okay, I know these are MIDI tracks because there are MIDI clips on them. What about this track? This track doesn't have anything on it. So how do I know if it's audio or MIDI? Well, a few different ways. First, if I look at my I/O here, I see all ins and all channels. This is going to say channel, whereas an audio track is going to kind of list our available inputs, and there's, depending on how your system is set up, there's probably only going to be two. But this is always going to have 16 for a MIDI track. But the better way to tell is if we look at what's happening down here in this area. This is going to be our instrument. Now all MIDI tracks need to have an instrument on them. The instrument is the thing that makes the sound. So this is a MIDI track, I can tell because there's an instrument on it. I can't put an instrument on an audio track because an audio track has audio information, and that's what makes the sound, is the clip itself. A MIDI track, this just has notes. If I double click on this clip, we see notes. Notes don't make sound. You need to apply a sound to the notes in order to make the sound. So if I go back over here and I see this is an instrument. If I go to an audio track, there's no instrument there. Doesn't need an instrument. So that's probably the best way to tell if you're in an audio track or a MIDI track. So then, like I said, we scroll from left to right. I can click anywhere and hit play,
but if the least of these must,
and hear my music playing. So that's arrangement view. Now let's look at how things work in session view.